The wrongs we must right. The fights we must win. The future we must secure together for our nation. This is what's in front of us. This determines what's next for all of us. We are Marines. We were made for this.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in places that could expose you to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, their U.S.-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
This is Sid and Friends in the Morning.
77 WABC.
Christmas, let your heart be light. From now on, our troubles will be out of sight.
Yes, Merry Christmas, folks. 6 days away from Christmas 2024, but, you know, Christmas and Hanukkah come out the same day this year. My next guest celebrates Hanukkah, and Leslie Slender, our beautiful, valued saleswoman, who's really great at her job. She really is great. And she just dropped off here in the studios these lilac chocolates that Ernie Anastas is humping every day. So, but they're in the shape, these chocolates, of dreidels. Lilac chocolate dreidels. So I got two Irishmen here. I got Pete Morgan and I got Lou Ruffino. You want one of these?
I'll skip.
When was the last time you spun a dreidel?
When I was in grade school. Probably.
You did?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, dreidel. I made it out of clay. And when it's dry and ready, oh, dreidel, I shall play.
That's awesome.
You didn't know.
I didn't know. Yeah. Well, you're practically Jewish anyway. You live in Jersey. All your clients are Jewish. All your friends are Jewish. I mean, you're Irish by name, but that's about it.
Okay. Morgenstein now.
Alan Dershowitz, maybe the greatest attorney that ever lived. I think he is. He's Jewish, and he's my dear friend, Mr. Dershowitz. How are you, pal?
Oh, dreidel, 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 I made you out of clay. You gotta sing it. You can't just say it. It's not a poem.
Sorry, Dersh.
I spin the dreidel every single year. I figured out a way of cheating at dreidel in high school. I would put a piece of gum on one side of the inside of the dreidel so that it would come out with a gimel all the time. And a gimel means you take everything. You take the whole pot. I got caught. I got suspended. They took my dreidel away. They took my money away.
Jeez.
So I've never cheated on dreidel again.
Wow. You needed a good attorney back then. Who knew?
Boy, I'll tell you, my mother.
Your mother?
Came to school and defended me, yeah.
So how does it work out? So if it ends on nun, you get nothing. If you get gimel, you get everything. What about shin?
You get half. Hey, you get half.
Hey, half.
And shin, you put it in. You have to put in some money if you get a shin.
There
so
it is.
You don't want
right.
a shin.
Right.
You don't want a shin.
Well, you don't really want hay either because hay is kind of like a divorce settlement. She gets half.
Yeah, you get half. What the heck? But gimel, if you could load your dreidel to make it come out on a gimel every time, you could walk away with like 25 cents, 30 cents.
Wow.
It was amazing because we paid for a penny a spin.
Back then, those were the days. You know, tonight, just so you know, before we have our serious conversation about law, Danielle and I, my beautiful wife who loves you, you love her, we're both being honored at a huge event. You know, the One Israel Fund, Alan, is the organization that has sent me to Israel twice over the last 7 months.
I wish I could be there to help honor you.
I know.
I'm in Florida. I'm going to a Hatzalah dinner tonight to honor the great people who help rescue. Hatzalah is an organization that has Jews, Muslims. There's a Muslim woman who's one of the heads of the organization, and they help any injured person without regard to their religion or race. They are a great organization.
They are great. I'll tell you a story quickly about them. So One Israel Fund is honoring Danielle and I tonight, but Alan's in Florida. So the last time I was in Israel, October 7th, I went to see Tila Falik and Simon Falik. And guess who was at the house? Eli Beer. You know him.
I'm going to be with him tonight, and I was with the Faliks 2 nights ago. We honored them. This is my week in Florida. I spoke at Chabad last night. I haven't had a night off. every time when I'm in Florida, everybody wants me to speak or be there.
Of course.
And honor them, be honored. So, look, this is a time where people who support Israel, have to be willing to put out and contribute. And so I've been very active in supporting Israel these days, and I know you have too.
No, listen, you've been great at this, supporting Israel for a long time. BB loves you, Bougie loves you. But the bigger question...
you know about my book, The 10 Big Anti-Israel Lies. Yep. We printed 1 million free copies to give out on 1,000 college campuses. Just this morning, we're going to send out 500 to an organization called CAMRA. We sent 1,000 to Harvard. We're sending 200 to the new college in Florida. Nice. We're going to get 1 million copies out there to respond to all the big lies that you hear from anti-Israel zealots on campus.
I love that. I want that book, too. This is Alan Dershowitz. The bigger question is, we know about all the love for the Jewish people, the Israeli stuff, and you've been doing that forever. But will you be going to Mar-a-Lago? Now, look, people ask me all the time, did your friend Dershowitz vote for Trump? I say, the God's honest truth. God's honest truth, I don't know. He's my friend. I wouldn't feel any differently about Alan if he did or didn't tomorrow. Now, gun to my head, I'll be honest, Alan, I go, do I think he went in there and voted for Trump? I do. But he's not going to tell his wife or kid that. So are you going to go to Mar-a-Lago and see President Trump while you're down in Florida?
I did. I was invited last Friday. I spent an hour. My wife and I spent an hour with him, just him.
Oh, good.
We talked about his incoming phone call with Netanyahu. We talked about a range of other issues. I obviously can't disclose precisely what we talked about, but I met with him for an hour. I met with Pam Bondi, who's going to be the new Attorney General. Yep. And, I hope to continue to give them advice as I did during his first term. In the first term, I'd get calls at any time. Hey, Alan, it's Donald. You're always tempted to say, Donald who? No, Mr. President, what can I do for you? Yeah. And, he would ask me about things, and I would give him my advice, and he would sometimes accept it and sometimes not accept it. But we met this time, and I said I would like to be an elder statesman who you can call whenever you choose to and ask any advice about, Israel, about anti-Semitism, about lawfare. And I hope he will do that. And I'm available. Look, he didn't ask me who I voted for. It doesn't matter.
Right.
I'm a loyal American citizen. I will help any president. Let me tell you this. I was thrilled that he won. I think for America and for Israel, it's a great thing that he's going to, for the next 4 years, with a big stick, stand in front of Iran, stand in front of Hamas, and say, if you don't free those hostages, by the time I come into office, they'll be held to pay. I like that. I want him to be a deterrent against terrorism. I want him to send a message to the world. You don't mess with the United States. You don't mess with President Trump. You don't mess with our friend Israel. That's a great message, and I'm happy to help him do it.
And he loves you. You know that. So I'm glad to hear all of this. This is the great attorney, Alan Dershowitz. So let's keep it with Trump from a legal standpoint.
Sure.
His team keeps going back to Judge Merchan, and I think they think at some point the judge is going to go, okay, fine, it's enough. It's dismissed. Don't worry about it. He's not doing that. It doesn't seem like he's ever going to do that.
Because he doesn't have to, because he's figured out a way. He's very clever. He's figured out a way of preventing Trump from appealing. He's gaming the system. He's saying, look, I'm going to rule against him. I'm going to rule against him in a way that won't let him appeal because I'm not going to sentence him. And without a sentence, you can't have an appeal. And so he's going to try to keep the sword of Damocles hanging over his head for 4 years, essentially saying to Trump, look, in 4 years, I'm going to sentence you, and I'm going to watch what you're doing as president, and I'm going to have influence over you, although I'll never talk to you about it. But, you're going to have to worry about me for 4 years. That's unconstitutional. This case has to be resolved now before he takes office. It should be dismissed. It should be thrown out. And if he can't appeal, he should take what's called a writ of mandamus and tell the Court of Appeals or the appellate division they're trying to game the system. They're trying to prevent you from reversing his outrageous conviction, which in and of itself is unconstitutional. Ruling after ruling was wrong. There's no crime. There's no crime here. And so he has to get an appellate reversal, and he has to get this thing dismissed, and he's not going to get it dismissed in front of Marchand. Marchand and the prosecuting attorney He wants to run for re-election.
Bragg.
He had one big case. Penny, he lost.
Right.
He had this case. He won.
Right.
If he loses this case, he's going to lose the election. Now he's lucky because he got the case of the CEO, and even Bragg can't lose that.
Yeah, well,
even he can't.
No, he can't. But it's interesting because you're talking about Luigi Mangione, who killed Brian Thompson, and in really despicable fashion. You know, this city, Alan, is really gross. You know, you get these pro-Hamas people running around every day. The mayor does nothing about it, and now you got people that are warming up to this kid, sending them money. You got politicians like Sanders and AOC that are kind of like wink, wink. It's a bad thing, but it's really not. It's really gross. But
and my former colleague Liz Warren,
yes,
she's basically justifying. Oh, you can only go so far. Look, why should anybody be surprised that these college kids are adoring a murderer? They adored Hamas. They justified what Hamas did. Hamas killed 1,200 people, not just one CEO.
Right.
And they're praising Hamas. And they're saying, you know, from the river to the sea, and they're saying Intifada now. So, of course, if you're going to praise people who killed 1,200 people in cold blood, you're going to praise somebody who kills one person in cold blood. To these people, you know, morality is something to be manipulated to your goal, to your end. They have no principles. They have no morality. They just, whatever is good for me, Constitution for me, but not for thee. Criminal law for thee, but me, but not for thee. So I'm not surprised.
No, I'm not surprised either, but it's still grotesque, and it takes place in the city. But I do want to ask you about not the first-degree murder charge. I'm talking about the terrorist charge. They're trying to bring federal charges in this case to call this a terrorist act. Is that going to work?
Well, let me tell you why they did it. They did it because that will help blunt the insanity defense. It'll allow them to introduce evidence. Hey, this guy wasn't nuts. He was politically motivated. This was a terrorist act designed to bring about a particular result to get people to hate insurance companies. So he's not crazy. He's not nuts. It was a clever attempt to deflect an insanity defense, which is one of the only defenses that could be plausibly raised here. He has a very good lawyer, and his lawyer will sit down and talk to him and figure out what his goal is.
You know, it's funny. You know, it's funny, Alan. You mentioned the insanity defense, and it's funny because when they took him to the first extradition hearing in Pennsylvania, he'll be extradited maybe back to New York as early as tomorrow. When he started yelling and screaming at the media, I really thought he planned that to come off as crazy.
It's very possible. It's very possible. Now, look, the first thing you do with a client, you sit down and you talk to them. Because you're just a lawyer. They're the client. You ask them, what's your goal here? Is your goal to be found nuts? All right, I can help you do that. But if you don't want to be found nuts, if you want to stand up and say, I did this for a principle, hey, then I have to have a different defense. People forget that you're only an agent when you're a lawyer. The client determines what kind of defense you want to put on. I don't know what he's going to want, and I don't know whether he's going to want to plead insanity. And if he doesn't want to plead insanity, a lawyer can't do that ethically and morally. So you're going to have to wait and see what he wants.
Right.
And the lawyer may say, look, I can't do that. You know that when Rabin was killed, his family, the family of the killer came to me and said they want me to go to Israel and they want me to defend him. And I said, what's the defense? I said, are you saying he didn't do it? Because if you're saying he didn't do it, all right, maybe I can go to Israel. Maybe he didn't do it. No. We're saying he did do it, and we're proud that he did it, and we want other people. I said, no, I can't defend you on that.
Oh, God, no.
Do that. Rabin was a friend of mine. I loved him. He was a great man. If he was still alive, who knows? There might be peace. I don't know. You never know what could happen. But look, Israel is in the strongest position it's ever been in militarily, and you've got to give Bibi credit for that. Even the Bibi haters, the people who have BDS, BB derangement syndrome, which is contagious from Trump derangement syndrome. You've got to give Bibi credit.
They don't.
What he did is turn around the Middle East.
They don't. They come out in big numbers in Tel Aviv and Times Square. They're morons. Last one, 60 seconds still, but I got to get it in. Getting back to Trump. You know, when Trump was in office, he wanted to ban TikTok because of the Chinese connection. Now that he did so well with the young vote in this latest election, he kind of likes TikTok. The kids, they're cute. But the Supreme Court got a decision coming up very, very soon. This deadline, ban TikTok or not. What do you think?
I'm very worried about the Supreme Court because they're rushing to decide this case before middle January. This is the most important social media case we're going to have in a long, long time. The question is not does TikTok have a right to First Amendment, but do we have a First Amendment right to use TikTok? It's a very complicated case. I can't predict the outcome, but I do predict based on the scheduling that maybe the Supreme Court will uphold the ban on TikTok, because otherwise they might not have rushed to take the case so quickly. They have to decide the case, I think, before January 19th. And that means briefs have to go in by January 3rd over Christmas. It's going to be a rush decision. I wish the Supreme Court would take more time. It's too important to rush.
Alan, what a year. You know, obviously you're a family friend helping out with my daughter. We love you. We love your family. Your family loves us. But, man, you were such an integral part of this show's success in 2024. Happy Hanukkah. Happy New Year.
Happy Hanukkah. And your daughter is a brave, bold, courageous daughter of Zion. And she ought to be so proud. You ought to be so proud. If everybody had daughters like you had, we wouldn't have the problems we have on college campuses. So please send her my best for a happy Hanukkah. And Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy Hanukkah. Happy New Year.
You too, Alan. We'll talk again in 2025. Ava will be with us tonight at this big One Israel Fun dinner. We'll send her a message. She loves you. Thank you, Alan Dershowitz. You're the best.
Thank you.
Bye, pal. Alan Dershowitz down in Florida, enjoying some time as he deserves, but he's working. He's working. Speaking here, speaking there, Trump, you name it.